All right, hello and welcome. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to get going right now. My community manager here, and joining me is
I'm John Roy. I'm an environment artist working on H1Z1.
awesome, perfect. So last time we had a Clegg on, and he was showing you how he was placing houses, and we were creating a neighborhood and that side of the level design. And today we're more focusing on the environment, the hills, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. How we start with the initial map of the whole world,
Mm-hmm.
sculpting that before we have any world building or design. I first have to make sure that there's something to build on.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready, I'll
All
kick
right.
it over to the computer. And if you guys have any questions specifically about about creating terrains and just the world of H1Z1, feel free to leave those in the chat, and I will kick those over to John, and hopefully he can answer for you. So here we go. Let's turn this down just a bit.
All right. All right. So the first thing I want to show you is where we actually start. So we come up with, obviously we go through a design process. We know what kind of game we want to make. We want to know the kind of gameplay mechanics, the size of the world. All those kind of things are talked about at length. And then we start collecting reference. We start collecting, real world photographs and things like that I want to show you.
Okay.
So hang tight here. A typical reference, obviously, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That you can tell we've looked at this a little H1Z1 looking maybe.
Yeah. I've seen those hills before.
Yeah, somewhere from the Northwest, and we've looked at Middle America and all sorts of other places. But that's the kind of thing that we look at. Like we want that kind of look, okay?
Right.
That kind of collection or combination of trees and stuff like that. From there, we start designing out. How is our world set up? Now this is more of an initial little. Actually, this is quite old. Whoops! What happened there? That was weird. Oh, that's because I'm not going into Photoshop. So we'll lay out some different areas, things like that. Actually, this is a very, very old map. I didn't have a chance to bring in the latest and greatest.
That's all right.
But you get the idea. We blanket out certain places and where do we want commercial or ranch or farm or town and things like that.
Sure.
So
for those of you who were here last week, this is the same terrain editor that Clegg was using to place things. Is that correct?
that is true.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So you'll be a little familiar with that if you were here last week.
Yeah.
So what are we seeing here?
So what I have here is we have a really great concept artist. He's doing a lot of environment work with me. His name's Roel. And Roel did some of our concept work. And this was one of the main towns, and you can see there's the hydro dam and some places that hopefully are going to become familiar to you. So we were deciding where we wanted to place things, what the feel of the town would be like, things like that. So this is part of the next step after we go through design and make decisions on the basics at kind of a broader level.
Okay.
Start honing in. So now we have imagery based on stuff from the real world or not, or whatever style we want to dictate, and start using those as our reference points.
Okay.
Yeah. So just wanted to go along a little bit more. Before I get into the terrain editor specifically, I wanted to show you this. So this is just a small little snippet of real imagery from a place in the United States. Doesn't matter really where it is, but what it is geological survey DEM data or a real height field, and you can see some of the rivers and things like that we have.
Sure.
Some mountains. A lot of interesting features, and it was one of the things I used to experiment how I wanted to try and make terrain. We usually use a tool, and we use some fractals and some other more procedural things to create a height field, and then we mold it and sculpt it from there. But this time around on H1Z1, I wanted to see if I could really get you know, more of a specific kind of hill, a little bit perhaps more realistic looking topography, and it was one of the experiments I tried on there. But I thought it was kind of an interesting thing to show for people that may not be familiar with that.
Yeah, definitely. These kind of reference points that you guys go off of, because last week Adam was showing like, so he would look down on a residential area in Google Maps, and that would give him, a really good idea of just how towns are laid out, and so he would kind of build off of that. So this is the nature's version of, of that.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
and it's also really nice. I like to study the stuff. Even as a kid, I was really big into maps and stuff, and geography, and just how terrains are made. I'm one of the guys that always has to have a window seat on the airplane. Go over to the desert and like, wow, look at how that erosion flows.
Right.
It's just kind of my thing. So from there, like I said, then we're working on some tools that generate some maps, and through a whole series of different things. We've used a lot of different little tools, but mainly they are a group of applications that let us use Perlin noise or certain kinds of fractals. You might be used to seeing it from like Bryce 3D or things like that, but we're using some other ones too, and we create these large patterns over kilometers and kilometers of a world, and that gives us different mountains. We can kind of move where we want major mountain features, kind of add a little bit, but it just gives us a big broad brush approach.
Sure.
And so we start with that, and then let me get back into Photoshop and pop this guy in here. It's kind of a large file. So this, and you can kind of see it a little bit. Let me level it up. There's a lot of data in this. This is actually a 16-bit height field TIFF file, and you can see there's a lot of extra data in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, so it's 16-bit. It's not a normal 8-bit RGB type of image, but this is an initial look at of what our elevation looks like if white was on top and black was the very lowest. I mean, white is the highest elevation is what I meant to say.
Sure.
And you can see how that just builds elevation on a height field.
Right.
And that's what that is. It's pulling up only on one axis. All these little, if you imagine a huge net or mesh, as our viewers know from games, it's all triangles, and you're just pulling up on one axis and getting that terrain mesh through this image to behave that way, and that's how we get our topography. So yeah.
All right. Let's
then,
see if you guys have any questions.
Yeah, I'll
Oh no, yeah.
give it a pause there.
Keep going. I'm gonna look for some questions.
All right. So from there, that's where I finally enter the terrain editor once I get the height field just the way I want it. And then if I could dare to just make our bubble a little bigger in the terrain editor here, see how much horsepower this machine has.
This is a look behind the scenes, guys. So sometimes it may get a little hectic, but that's game development for you, right?
Oh yeah, it's we're always experimenting, we're always iterating. It's interesting. It's not giving me a very big view of the world. That's not quite what I was hoping for, but so let me see here. One thing I can do is not that. Yeah, we kind of came in here and got this thing set up, and it wasn't. Not sure why this isn't set up. Press.
Okay, yeah, if you guys have any questions specifically about this, we're not really going to be talking, early access and that kind of stuff on the stream. This is a work-in-progress stream, so we're just giving you a behind-the-scenes look at what the game devs do on a day-to-day basis.
So what I was going to do is kind of at least try and show as much of the map as possible, but the performance on this box isn't like the one I work on, or something isn't quite reacting as I expected. But I come in and import a huge height field map, like I said, this TIFF file. It molds the whole world at once, and that
Right.
gives us that start. And it's from there where begin to lay down what we call ecosystems, or basically they're different types of land coverage. So they're, grassland, dirt, forest leaves to rock, snow, let's say, those kind of things. We just, for some reason way back when, decided to call those ecosystems. And that's where we start creating texture maps that then we can tile across the world where we want them to go. And I use the height field as a way to kind of mask which areas I want to be grass.
Mm-hmm.
I want these little crevices like right up here. I want that to be dirt or leaves where there's a forest.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
All right, so we got a question from Kestris. How does the team go about smoothing roads and paths? Is it done manually with a brush, or do you use prefabs for something like that?
So the best way to answer that is when we do small little dirt roads, we do some hand painting and kind of give it that type of look. Then we have some prefab road pieces and some functionality, and we lay down the main roads that way.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's a little bit of both.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can answer this one for you. KB Singer, what will the boundaries of the map be like? An invisible wall, oceans, mountains? Is that something we can talk about, or
well,
probably a little too early for that?
I would say that we have some mechanisms we're going to put in place where you're not going to really get to the absolute edge, of course. That doesn't really look that good.
Yeah.
Just see this void of nothingness, right? So I can tell you that much
Okay.
without giving away a whole much more. That's basically it. It's not a matter of whether it's a continent or not, or if it's landlocked or not.
Right. It's not going to be like the Truman Show where he just comes to the edge of the water.
Right.
At the
Exactly.
End
it's like,
and it's just a wall. Yeah.
Yeah. No mimes.
Okay.
No. All right.
Let's see. That's a similar question. Goaty73. Good question, though.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see if I could show you a little bit more of. Here we go. This looks promising in a way. It means it's thinking, so.
Oh, good.
Let's hope.
All right, let's grab another question then. Which area of the world are you using to model the map, or are you making your own world? And we'll kick it back over to the main camera. When the computer comes back up, we'll go back to it.
Yeah, let's hope it's on its way back here. It's
chugging along. It's chugging along today.
Chugging.
Yeah.
Yes. So while it's chugging, we're going to do some chatting. So it's really a custom world. Like I was saying, as reference and as some parts of the way we built the world, I did look at other geological survey maps and tried a few pieces and chunks and things like that. But altogether, it was one world just based on customized map. Some hand brushing, some fractals, combination of all three. I don't like to really get locked into just one type of method. So here's what I was trying to do. Now you can kind of see a lot more without.
Okay. Yeah. That gives you a much better idea.
Yeah. So the height field was actually, it's giving me some erosion, and I used that erosion. I was able to single it out with some of the tools we have to create where I wanted the texture maps and things like that. I also use it for kind of a cavity AO map, create a little bit of kind of a lighting or shading kind of light map effect, so to speak.
Okay.
And I'll be doing that later on. This map actually doesn't have that yet, but work in progress.
So these bits right here, I guess you could put the mouse right over that.
Let's cruise over there.
Is that... So the elevation went up, obviously. So you have kind of the rocks along the side of the hill. Is that procedurally generated, or did you go in and place that because you knew the elevation was going up, so you wanted kind of a rock face?
So what we did there is I was able to single out this area as slope and said on the slopes I want to have the rock. Now this area is actually kind of rough. It's an area that we'll come back and be touching up. But that's how we did this particular piece. Is I masked for slope. You can see right in here as well. and the rock went on that area.
Okay.
A real kind of rough pass on it right now,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what we're doing. Let me try and see if I could cruise to a mountain, because that has a really nice separation on it.
So, Frosty Gambit, if you're doing this right now, does that mean we can feel confident that the map is constantly expanding? So there are borders, correct?
Yes.
So yeah, it's not like what was that game? Tribes, like the original Tribes.
Where
You
it just went on and on. Tribes 2.
fly, yeah, you just fly out.
I remember
forever.
doing that. I was playing the game. I'm like, I just want to see where it ends.
Yeah.
It just kept going. It wasn't even
never
playing.
ended.
Yeah, I remember that.
So yeah, there are borders to this map.
Yeah, but that does not mean that we have plans in the future to expand and do. Of course, we will.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that there's some finite end to the way this works.
Right.
Just because this map has some kind of fixed border, but yeah, we always have plans to do bigger and better things.
Cool.
Yeah. So here's maybe a little better example of what I was talking about, where I was able to mask out using cavity erosion and get the rocks right where I want them to be.
Oh, sure.
Some dirt wash, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can see down here, and then we have a little POI that was made. So this is once we get all the pieces set up, we have designers building that comes in here, and I'll come in here and do some little POIs along with them, and we kind of
POI
creating
is
the world.
Point of interest.
Okay.
Yeah. I know a lot of people have been asking about things like that. Like, will there be areas of the map that you can kind of point to and say, like, I know, the mall, the strip mall's over there. I know the water tower's over there. Those kind of points of interest that you can kind of orientate yourself when you're on a map this large.
Yeah. In fact, that is. I just got done doing something like that. On one of the mountains, I put a radio tower because it was a fairly centralized mountain, and I wanted to make sure that, okay, people can orient themselves and look at that and go, okay, that's the middle of the map, no matter what, things like that.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
We are definitely thinking that way. Roads, navigation, these power lines, I'll give you a little hint right here. These will be handy for you.
Right.
So you can follow those up and down if you come across them. Things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And the river,
All right, let's see.
Here,
Looking for some more questions here.
I'll play with some tools here while you're...
Yeah, there was one question. Can you show us how to make a hill?
That is so funny. I was just going to do
Really?
that.
I've been using Unity, and when I make one, it just becomes a jumbled mess, and that comes from Epic Penguin.
Epic Penguin, I feel for you. I do a lot of this kind of more baked, fractal procedural or, DEM kind of stuff, but I actually like painting and building hills, but it's never as good as, something where you've run a huge erosion algorithm over it for an hour and it really, looks like it's been there for, the million years it is, that kind of thing. So it is a little tricky, but let me show you what I do. So you see all these different little maps. Some of these are older from PlanetSide. In fact, a lot of them are from there. But there's some real nice hills and things like that that you can... let's see what this one is. This one looks fairly interesting. So you see that little squares to bitmap. That's pretty small. It's only 1 meter. So I'm going to change these a little bit. That's a little big, maybe. So it's going to be kind of a real sharp mountain in a real small space, but boom, here it comes. So it's, let me give it a little more.
Is it true
but
that
this is one way we do it, and we can rotate this brush and do things like that with it. So that's a little too much.
Cool.
Yeah, but you get the idea. What I would do, so let me come in the middle here, is something like that. Okay, and then what I would do is take out one of my tools and start kind of painting with it. We have a smooth brush, we have up and down averaging, and all sorts of different little pieces and tools that we work with here. my hotkeys aren't set up, so now I have to actually like look for them.
What?
Yeah. We actually have a hill brush. This is what I avoid doing, is going like this. I call those sugar lumps, camelback. Got all sorts of names for them, and
they just look unnatural.
Yeah, it's just ugly. There's no form or thing to them. And this is actually kind of has a lumpiness to it as well. You know, you can see it's clearly not, you know, as interesting with all these little fissures and you know, little outcrops.
Right.
But you know, if we have to make a small hill and we just can't go backwards into the high field, we do that. So yeah.
When you make a hill like that, when you place it, say you placed it over the top of that that tower, will that lift the tower up to the top of the hill, or is that something you have to go through and manually adjust after putting in something like that?
So we can set all our objects up so they can either follow or not follow terrain, and that's how we do that. So for the most part, we you know, we set it up at a per object basis. I don't know if you can see there, but I can actually pull down parts of this hill, and you know, I would do things like that to create a little more interest. This computer's a little slower than I'm used to, but you get the idea. You know, I'd come in here and do some erosion.
Right.
Actually, sorry, let me get my left-handedness working the right way. Yeah, I'm one of them.
You're one of them.
I remember that from the 12-hour stream. They're like, oh, he's a lefty, kill him. That's what someone said.
You do a lot of cross.
Only on other people's computer.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you get that idea. But here's kind of a fun little trick, if I can get standing on the terrain to work. I'm not sure why it's... Oh, it's probably because I don't have those prefs set up the right way. But you can actually paint on the terrain, and the camera will rise up below you and pick you up like an elevator. But I just have to set up all the prefs in here the right way. Okay. But it's kind of fun.
Wolf and Punk, question is, how tall is the tallest mountain?
How tall is the tallest mountain? Just trying to think if that's giveaway info or not.
How tall is that tallest mountain that we can see right here?
Well, this tallest mountain, this is one of the ones that is fairly tall. I'd say we're talking only about, you know, maybe it's around 400 meters, so some maybe up to 6. That's rather high. Because the terrain or the height field gets lofted, you know, just on the y-axis or just vertically like that, it has kind of an exponential effect. So I can't just type in, I want 1 kilometer as the peak. It really is kind of, you know, does it look right? Is it too pointy that way?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so it's not a matter of just numerically throwing a number in, it's whether the art looks good. So, yeah.
All right, let's see. Get some more questions here. That's more of a gameplay question.
Well, if it's straightforward, I might be able to field it. But
okay,
yeah.
you want
to give me a try. Yeah.
Brian's Legend says, will terrain react to weather, such as driving a car in the rain and having it slide?
Well, I can say this about things like weather and rain is there is some weather that's already in the game that makes the terrain look different, or maybe perhaps wet, when it's raining.
Yeah.
And whether there's some weather. So we are looking into doing more of that type of thing, but we do have some you know, things that are affected by weather.
Okay.
So yeah, I was able to sort of, you know.
You worked your way around that one.
Yeah.
I liked it. All right, let's see.
Yeah, let me see what else I can show here. We got there's a little ramp tool that's kind of cool. Say I want a driveway in the middle of this mountain.
Oh.
You know.
Yeah.
So just little things like that. And if you come in here, you can see the actual wireframe. You know. So it's pretty nifty. This might be an interesting point. We actually optimized this terrain, but it's a uniform height grid at the moment. But we do some other things to it once we bring it into the game. But just so you kind of see what I'm working with.
All right, there's a lot of people asking about underground areas.
Underground.
I don't know how much we can talk about that.
We always have plans to be able, like I said, expand the map. Things like underground areas are always been a big part of our games.
Sure.
We're looking into it. and that's about really all I can go with for right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
I love caves.
There you go.
I spent a lot of years on EverQuest and made my fair share of caves, so definitely have that
Yeah,
interest.
what was your path up to H1Z1? So you were on
how far back
EverQuest?
should I go?
Points of interest, POIs.
Yeah, let's see, POIs. Okay. I started in the industry way back. Let's say I made a C64 game once.
Okay.
But and I did the audio for it as well. It's kind of weird. But yeah, just moving on forward through that, consoles, that type of thing. Came to SOE. I made a sports game and then worked on Star Wars Galaxies for 5.5 years.
Big fan. Big fan of Star Wars Galaxies.
I still love the game. Love the fans that, it was kind of a tough game to make. It was actually it had a lot of really cool tech and technology. In fact, the terrain editor was pretty neat.
Yeah.
I worked with a great programmer that designed that, and I kind of worked along with him. So moving from Swig, I was waiting for some new projects to start up, things like that, and so went over and helped the original EverQuest 1.
Okay.
And helped as an art director on that team. It was a little bit after the NGE, or the new graphics engine, started, and so I was working with the team on making more worlds or expansions based on that new technology, and ended up staying there about, I think it was like 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Wow.
So I was pretty excited to to move on when
Sure.
PlanetSide started to need some more resources. I'm just like, oh. Yeah. So I was at a meeting once and saw where it was going, and I said, I got to get on that. And I've always wanted to make a shooter, so
Nice.
it's a dream come true for me. So that was
Very
fun.
cool. Let's see. So here's a question that pertains to that. Willie Wiggins, do you think that the terrain will be more climbable than it is in PlanetSide?
Or
Or maybe is that a question you can answer?
I'm not sure if that's going to change a whole lot or not. I actually don't have enough information, and we haven't finalized some of the slope and vehicular kind of angle.
All right. Well, good question
stuff.
then, Willie.
Yeah,
Wiggins.
that's something that we're
cut right
still
to the core.
Yeah, we're still polishing, or making sure it's where we want it to be.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What are some of your favorite things to create? Like, do you have a fondness for rivers or mountains?
Fondness for rivers.
Like creating the path
really,
of the river, is that the...
It's kind of weird. I really like the erosion. I like the fact that, I can work with these tools and get the channeling width and the soil drag and sediment, or the rock hardness, and just tweaking with all these tools until I get something that looks like, again, like what I would see if I was flying over the desert.
Sure.
And, that's what I'm looking for. I want you guys to really feel like you can believe that this, huge mesh is actually a believable place. If I've done that, then I've done my job. And
right.
So I want this terrain to look real, feel like it's a real place, has a sense of place. That's always my goal. So I just, this kind of little stuff. I like that erosion and the fact that I can mask rock onto it as well. Oh, that's something I could talk about too, is the textures here.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go into that.
Yeah, I'll just keep moving here.